What's up, adventurers, sword and sorcery, geeks, and Dungeons and Dragons nerds, and everybody else. Another Toy Reviews Day, where every Tuesday I try to review a new toy for you guys. This is the Hasbro Pulse exclusive Forgotten Realms Dungeons and Dragons Drizzt and Guenhwyvar figure. I guess that's how you pronounce it. If you guys aren't familiar with this character, he came out in the late 80s, early 90s, written by R.A. Salvatore, great fantasy novel writer. Haven't read any of his books, but my dad definitely has. He's definitely read some of these books as well with this Drow or Dark Elf character in them. My exposure to Drizzt basically came through Wizard magazine, seeing a lot of ads for this character, as well as reading a lot of comic books back in the day and seeing ads for the Forgotten Realms stuff in there as well. My experience with Dungeons and Dragons all came prior to this character emerging onto the scene. I remember the late 70s, early 80s Dungeons and Dragons stuff, most notably the role-playing game, and also the LJN line of figures, which featured some of the most amazing characters, even though some of them really weren't in the game. They were just a really cool line of figures. And Hasbro, who owns Wizards of the Coast, who owns the rights to Dungeons and Dragons, has decided to produce a line of action figures based on some of the more famous characters, and this is the first one of that line. I will mention a side note that Nika Toys also is producing Dungeons and Dragons figures. The ones that they're producing are more true to the LJN style of figures, and I don't know if Hasbro is going to produce those figures as well. I do know that they are producing a set of figures based on the cartoon, which I never really liked, but seems to be popular with nerds. So anyway, before I start the review, I want to apologize to all you Dungeons and Dragons nerds out there. I'm a nerd as well. I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm a super nerd. I have probably 20,000 comic books. I go down all these wormholes. I don't like the Marvel movies because I don't think they're true to the comic characters. So I'm a nerd too, but you guys are also nerds. So yeah, I guess we're in the same boat. But I do apologize if I get names wrong or history wrong or all that stuff. I'm not in it for that. I'm just in it to review this really cool figure, which I bought. So as you can see, it's a really nice packaging. Hasbro went all out with this. Cool. You can see like here, it's got the offset, different gloss on matte picture of the Drow or Dark Elf and his Panther fighting. I don't know what that is, a bone dragon or something. But really, really cool. I'm assuming that the box art was done by one of the artists from the 90s, but I don't really know. I didn't really look into that at all. But the box art is very, very cool and very nicely done. You can see the Dungeons and Dragons logo, classic, just pops on top. It's a sleeve. Before Hasbro decided to go all climate change woke, they still have the clear packaging so you can see the figure in there. Really, really nice. You can see there is our lead character and his Panther. You have the famous Dungeons and Dragons dice, as well as a nice little loadout of weapons. So what we'll do is we'll pause the video and we'll open this guy up, pop him out, take a look at him. All right, gang, welcome back. So I got this guy popped out of the package. Now, first of all, let me go ahead and say, excuse me, if you've seen my previous toy reviews, I fucking hate taking these things out of their packages. It's a pain in the ass. This one was no different. Getting him out of this was literally mind-numbing because I'm always worried they're packed in there so tight. I'm always worried I'm going to rip some of these flimsier things off as I try to remove them from these stupid ass packages. So that's one thing I do like about Hasbro's direction in their woke climate change, eco-friendly packaging. A lot of the figures come in like a waxy paper of some kind. and it's easier to get them out there, because to get them out of this plastic bubble container is just, I hate it. I just hate it, because you always break something sometimes. But anyways, I got him out, and he's a really, really cool figure. Very well done. We'll talk about his Panther. How do we pronounce that again? Guenhwyvar or Guehwyvar. I don't know. Somebody should tell me in the comments how you pronounce that. But this is cool. He's a really neat Panther. The tail pops right into his butt. He has really nice articulation. Reminds me a lot of the articulation of the Masters of the Universe Origins Panther and Battle Cat figure, but definitely a lot more articulation than those. Mouth pops open. Paws move. It's just a nice little cat. Really cool. I like this quite a bit. He's big, so in order to display these guys together, I'm going to have to find somewhere in my office desk or my desk at work where they can kind of hang out together. But the cat's cool. It's a neat addition. Comes with a separate head sculpt. We'll just go ahead and cover this stuff real quick here too. It comes with this separate head sculpt, a couple different hands, small little either baby cat or cat statue, not too sure what the hell that is, and these ice or magical sword coverings that slide into the swords as such. If you've seen this guy in a lot of the art over the last several years, you know what this is all about, so I won't go into that either. Those are always cool, really cool accessories. Both of his elfish swords are really, really neat. Well made. They're not too bendable. They were in the package for a while, but they still look pretty well. They still hold their form well. A nice paint scheme on them. They actually fit in the hands here, but the problem is I need to heat these hands up because they're not pliable at all, so I can't really get the swords in there. That's one of the downsides of some of these higher-end collectibles. You got to do some work to get the gear and stuff in their hands. But the swords do fit within the sheaths, which is cool. Just slide those in there like such, or I guess not. There we go. One sword in there. Apologize for the shitty camera work. Just the way it is. Head pops off. Cape pops off. I did have this necklace here that comes off. Put that on there. The body, actually, we'll take a look at it too. The body and the sculpt is awesome. The paint is really, really cool on this figure. Fully posable, super articulated body, ankles, knees, wrists, elbows, torso. Very similar to a Marvel Legends style figure. All you guys who are familiar with Marvel Legends are going to know that Hasbro does a really good job with their sculpts on all their figures. And this is no different. If you've got some of the Star Wars Black Series figures as well, then you know how all those operate. This is basically done in the same vein as all those figures. You got the 20-sided dice, which is really, really cool. I like this in quite a bit. You can actually use that in your D&D game if you prefer. I do not play D&D right now, but when my son, who is currently 4, gets older, I plan on trying to go back to my roots as a young boy and have maybe a D&D pizza night with some of his friends when he gets older. So I can have a bunch of little nerds over at my house, and I can be the dungeon master, dress up in my Wizard of Candy outfit, and lord over those boys and girls. Hopefully, if we get we get a nice diverse mix of people. And who knows, Dad even might pop out the mead and go straight into character. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this figure today. So I like this figure a lot. Like I said, I'm not a Dungeons & Dragons aficionado with some of this stuff or this character in general. What I do find interesting when I read his bio on Wikipedia, he's a drow or a dark elf, I guess. And he's kind of like an anti-hero as well. Very heroic, though. He's only 5'4", according to his dungeon wiki or whatever. So what I find interesting is the figure itself stands around 6 inches tall. What I find fascinating is if they're going to make other Dungeons & Dragons figures, wouldn't you want this guy to be scaled for those other figures? So if he's 5'4", he's not real tall. And if you got like the average height of a Marvel Legends figure is supposed to be 6-ish, 6 foot, 6'2"-ish. I don't know. I thought that maybe this figure should be smaller because when you see him with his cat, the cat looks very big compared to him because he is an elf. But I didn't design this. But whoever did a really good, fantastic job. And it is a cool figure. And I'm anxious to see, now that Hasbro had this figure come out, and this is still available on their Pulse website, by the way. I don't think it sold very well. It was around $40 and some change. I went ahead and bought it. I also bought a couple other things on pre-order as well with this guy that I'll review at different times. But I am anxious to see if Hasbro does flesh out their Dungeons & Dragons action figure line. And I kind of am also anxious to see if they're going to do some cross-pollination, like make some of the same figures that Nika's making. Because right now, Nika's making Warduke, who's one of my favorite characters. I don't know when that thing's ever going to come out. I've had it on pre-order forever now, and they seem to be taking their sweet-ass time. They also have, what's his name? Grimsworm or whatever. And there's several others that they've put out there for Toy Cons and other things. But they got a lot of Dungeons & Dragons stuff coming. So they're going to be pushing that really hard in 2023, I think. But I am anxious to see what Hasbro is going to do with the line. It'll be one that I will collect. I love Dungeons & Dragons figures. I love the genre, even though I don't know a lot about some of the newer late 80s, early 90s stuff. But this is a great figure. If you're a fan of Dungeons & Dragons, I would definitely suggest adding this to your collection because this is a cool figure. It's very well made. And yeah, I just like it a lot. And I can't wait to get my other Dungeons & Dragons figures and maybe have them all displayed together at some point in time. So anyways, guys, this is a pretty simple, shitty toy review. Hope you enjoyed it. Oh, one other thing. If you take a look at the box art, after you pull the crappy packaging out, it's got a really cool scene there. Frosty ice scene there for your figure. So I imagine you could pull that out and display him behind that as well with his cat. So this has been my review of the Dungeons & Dragons Forgotten Realms Drizzt and Guenhwyvar figure combo. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. It's a cool figure. If you're a big fan of Dungeons & Dragons, definitely pick this up. It's got some really great accessories. Other than that, like and subscribe to the page. Share these. I hope you like the review. If you don't, leave a comment. Tell me I'm terrible at toy reviews. Either way, guess what? I'm still making the same paycheck, so it doesn't matter. So in the meantime, guys, keep living the adventure and cheers.